Hello. Uh, this is my first uh, Facebook Live. I have no idea how it's going to go, but I hope it goes okay. Welcome to the Alliance Française de Dublin, their live series of readings, and it's going on regularly. So you should check out the ones that have gone before, and also the ones that are coming up as well. I was asked to do this reading because I had the lovely experience of being invited to their festival last year, and I really enjoyed that. And my book, The Good Son, came out in France a few years back, Un Bon Garçon, and I again was very lucky to have been um, up for an award there. So I did a little tour or two around France. That was lovely. And yeah, so tonight I'm here to read you a short story. This is the first time I've read this story. I wrote it a few years ago, and it was shortlisted for Irish Short Story of the Year at the Irish Book Awards. And it's in this beautiful, beautiful book. Let me show it to you. It's quite a big boy there. See that? Isn't it gorgeous? The Art of the Glimpse 100 short stories selected by Sinead Gleason. And it's just got an incredible lineup of authors. There's Roddy Doyle, there's Mia Vinci, there's Mike McCormack, Frank O'Connor, Donal Ryan, Sally Rooney, Claire Keegan, Anne Enright. It just goes on and on and on. So it's a really amazing book, and that's going to come out, I think it's in October 1st. So I'm lucky to have this in advance, so I can read my story from it. And this story is quite an unusual one for me, it's stylistically. So I hope you like it. And if I get into trouble trying to read it from this big book, I've got a printed out version I might swap over to. But I'll try and read it from here, seeing as I'm lucky enough to have it in my hands. So this is called Hollow. 1. A couple lived on a farm, far away from the rest of the world, and on their fertile land all crops flourished. They kept chickens that laid more eggs than they could eat, and nearby a stream jumped with fish to fry. They owned a well with a never-ending supply of water, and right at the edge of their lands a wood provided trees to chop for the fire. The couple had everything their hearts desired, except for one small thing. On their wedding day, to mark the occasion, the couple had planted an apple tree at the entrance to the wood, and exactly 5 years later, it bore fruit for the first time, as though celebrating their anniversary. Surely it's a sign, his wife said. The farmer patted her stomach and smiled. Years passed, and the woman's belly showed no swell, and though love grew fat and rested deep within them, the couple stopped lying with each other. The farmer took to going to the edge of the wood at the end of his working day to sit underneath the apple tree. At times, when he hadn't come home for supper, the wife would go looking for her husband, only to find him sleeping against its trunk. "See what you've done," she said one evening, while helping her husband to his feet. "You've worn a dent in the tree with your back." She smiled through a sting of jealousy. Later that night, being of a sensible nature, she shook her head and laughed at herself, returning to the calm she knew. One day, when the man was tired from his work and felt the cool of the setting sun in his bones, he went to the wood and sat, leaning in the nook he had worn into the tree. This groove his body had made over the years seemed to welcome him. Before long, he drifted off to sleep. In his dream, he was exactly where he had sat to rest, but the world had become unbearably hot. He took off his shirt. then the rest of his clothes, and lay naked at the foot of the tree. Despite the heat, a blanket of cool, damp leaves covered the earth, protected from the burning sun by the shade the tree provided. I wish there was a breeze, he thought, and closed his eyes. What felt like a cool breath ran over him, making the fine blonde hair of his stomach stand and his skin bump and tingle. When he opened his eyes, he saw the 5 flowered blossoms on the apple tree trembling. The branches waved. He knew it wasn't the wind, but the tree itself fanning him. The branches came toward him, wrapped underneath and around him, pulling him up until it was pressed against the trunk of the tree. He placed his hands on the bark and looked up at the dance of the branches above. How beautiful you are, he said, then kissed the tree tenderly. How I've ignored you all this time. Have I been blind? The groove he had made with his back was now hip height as he stood, and it yielded as he pressed against the tree. Leaves whispered in his ear, and the smell of the apple blossom filled his head, and he became aroused. He made love to the tree in the way the dreams allow. As he came, the tree caved, and he sank deep inside the deep darkness of its hollow. When he woke, the farmer found he was lying naked on the earth. He tried to piece together what had happened, grasping at images from the dream, but like snowflakes, they melted the instant he touched them. All that remained was a feeling of deep shame. He was cold and became self-conscious. Dressing quickly, he hurried home, his head thick with fog and full of fear and the sense of something important lost. 2. The tree waited for the man to return. Every day as the sun rose, the tree unfurled its leaves to the cottage in the distance. Every afternoon the tree waited, hoping to see the man appear walking towards it through the long grass. But he was never again to rest itself on its bark. As the days grew hotter, apples burst from its branches, tiny and sore. One, sprouting from the tip of the highest branch, caused the most pain. Within a week, it had grown 10 times the size of the others. It weighed the branch down until it rested on the earth. As the summer had its way, while the other apples matured and fell, the huge fruit stayed and did not stop growing. One morning as the tree opened for the sun, something was different. The large apple had disappeared. The branch that had held it now led inside the hollow that had been made so deep the last time the farmer had come. The tree pulled the branch to burn the fruit out, bark cracking from the effort. It called upon its deep roots to help, and with the strength of the earth itself, it strained until there was a cry, a human cry. Now the branch came easily. It rustled out from the hollow, and with it a baby boy, the tip of the branch attached to the boy's belly. The tree slid some branches under the baby and lifted it off the ground. The tree wept leaves and blossoms of joy at the sight. The boy screamed and cried. The tree curled a branch around a rock and bashed against its trunk until bark split. It brought the boy to the split, and he drank its sticky sap. The tree was devoted to the boy. It shaded him under its branches while it was hot and sheltered him in its hollow when he was cold. It let him drink his fill of its sap, held and rocked him till he slept, and the boy was content playing among the roots. The farmer never returned. When the boy had been with the tree for 7 years, and the autumn had painted them both brown and orange, a tiny figure appeared in the horizon and came towards them. The tree became frightened for the boy, ushering him into the hollow and concealing the entrance with his branches. A little girl emerged from the grass, swinging a tiny basket. She sat on the ground and picked the apples, throwing away the bruised and the wrinkled, and keeping the golden and shiny for herself. The girl began to sing. Clear, high, and pure, her voice hung in the air like a sweet smell. The tree resisted as the boy pushed at the branches to escape. The boy growled, a sound he'd never made before. The little girl jumped. The growling became a whisper. The girl looked at the tree, glanced back at the cottage in the distance, then stood. Flattening down her skirt, she tiptoed towards the tree trunk. "Hello," she said, tugging at the branches that covered the hollow. The boy struggled in his side to it, and soon the two of them were face to face. "Who are you?" she asked. The boy reached out and touched her hair, then felt her own. The girl spat on the hem of her skirt, then wiped the earth from his face. The tree shivered at this. Its leaves rustled a warning. "That's better," the girl said. The boy glanced back at the tree and then at the girl. "I'm not supposed to come here," she said. "It'll be our secret." She held out her finger to her lips. "I have to go, but I will come back," she smiled, picked up her basket, and off she skipped. The boy ran after the girl until the branch that led from his belly to the tree snapped him back. He pulled at the branch. The tree felt those tugs deep in its sap. As the girl disappeared over the horizon, the boy dropped to the earth with a thump. The boy didn't return to the tree straight away, but sat watching the sun grow tired and heavy until it sank from the sky to rest. When the chill of the dark came to rouse him, the boy stood and with his foot made a circle of turned up soil around the tree, mapping his boundary. As the autumn darkened, the girl came to the tree every afternoon. She bought books with drawings inside them and taught the boy about the world beyond the field. Even after he understood her talk, he would not speak back. He was ashamed of the rustling whispers that came out of his mouth when he practiced alone. The girl didn't seem to mind that he was always silent, except when he laughed. He couldn't keep the wet, sticky clacking sound inside. The next summer, while the tree was busy bearing fruit, energy low, busy with so much life, the girl came all day, every day. The children started whispering. They were keeping secrets. When they did this, the tree would tickle them with leaves or drop apples on their heads. They'd laugh, then move further away. One dry, late summer's day, under the pale blue sky, the boy ran to greet the girl. This time they lingered at the very limit that his branch allowed. The summer had been a hot one, and the apples in the tree had grown heavy and begun to drop before their time. When it happened, it was like an explosion. Every branch shook. Every apple fell. When the surge passed, the tree saw the girl and the boy running across the field hand in hand. In the girl's other hand, an axe glinted in the sun. 3. The boy's bony fingers felt crushed by the girl's hand, and he was sure he heard a snap, but he didn't mind. He barely touched the ground, pulled with such force by the girl, and she ran through the field, down and then up the hill. He'd never been outside of his little circle around the tree, and the further he went, the more frightened he became, but excited too. The girl didn't seem to notice. She pulled, dragging him on. Ahead he saw a cottage, just like the pictures the girl had shown him. It was where people lived, people like him. At the cottage, the girl rested the axe by the door and said, "Wait there," kissing him on the cheek. He nodded and watched her go in. The door clicked but didn't catch, remaining slightly open. The boy was left alone for the first time in his life. He felt lightheaded and wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. He watched through the gap in the door. "Daddy, I've brought my friend home," the girl cried. "A friend? Where?" The father squinted at his daughter. "Don't leave the child outside." "It's the boy I've been telling you about," she said. "The boy from the tree." "The apple tree at the edge of the wood?" her mother asked. "That's your father's tree." "I've told you to stay away from there. Stay away from that tree," the father scolded. "And it's not my tree," he glared at his wife. "No wonder her head is full of nonsense." The girl ran out the door and grabbed the boy by the hand. He was stiff with fear, but she dragged him in and helped him onto a chair. "See," she said, pointing at the boy. The boy stayed silent, ashamed of the sound of his voice. "Oh, yes, he's a lovely boy, isn't he?" the farmer's wife said. "He looks a little familiar," she winked at her husband. "Can we get him some clothes?" asked the girl. "Don't be ridiculous," the farmer snapped. "When I start school, he can come too," the girl continued. "We can say he's my brother." The farmer slammed his fist on the table. His mother laughed. He does have his father's eyes. The boy remembered how still his mother was and hoped if she sat like her, they might forget he was there. This is not a boy, it's a piece of wood, the farmer shouted, and at that he jumped up, snapped the boy in half over his knee, and threw him on the fire. How the little girl cried in her mother's lap. As he burned, as he screamed and spat crackles in the flames, the boy watched his father storm out of the cottage, pick up the axe at the door, and head for the wood. Well, thank you very much for coming and joining me, and I hope you enjoyed that. And thank you for the Alliance Française for asking me. And I do hope you'll tune in again to check out some more of their great events coming up. All right. Bye bye.